Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to pick number 10 of my favorite 30 guitar players of all time. We've been doing it each and every day here this month in September in 2024. Our favorite 30 guitar players across all genres, all up for grabs. Hard to pick just 30. We're doing it all together each and every day. Today for pick number 10, truly one of the greats of all time. I don't think anybody would argue it. Unfortunately, we lost him not all that long ago. Big blow for all of us who have been fans. But, you know, he's one of the kind of the hallowed halls, the sacred few, right? There's that handful, that upper echelon, those innovators that you look at and you're like, yeah, that player was pretty damn special. Let me bring to the stage, of course, I'm sure you know who he is. None other than El Becco himself, Mr. Jeff Beck. Yeah, one of the greats. Maybe doesn't have even though his career was so long, not the most prolific guy out there, but, he's got a whole bunch of albums to his credit. But considering, you go all the way back to his Yardbird days and everything up until his death, he has amassed a good amount of albums, but considering someone with such a long career, maybe not as big a discography as others, right? Whatever, but some great stuff nonetheless. And Beck, of course, always known as the man with the Stratocaster, and especially, in the latter part of his career, playing without a pick. Early on, he played Strats and Tellys and Les Pauls and whatnot, but mainly known as a Strat player for a good chunk of his career. And, trying to pick three favorite albums, yeah, I guess this one wasn't so difficult. I've always had my favorite Beck albums, but there's a couple, there's when you're trying to decide which are the favorite albums featuring some of his best performances. There's like 4 or 5 that come into play easily. So you got to kind of just whittle it down to 3, right? So I think I've done that here. We're going to start off with the Truth album, Jeff Beck Truth, basically the beginnings of the Jeff Beck group, right? What a great band this was. Of course, a young Rod Stewart on vocals, right? His first major gig. Ron Wood on bass, Mick Waller on drums. Nicky Hopkins helping out on some piano and things like that. Just great stuff on here. More, basically the blueprint for kind of heavy rock, right? Because this came a little bit before Led Zeppelin's first album. Of course, Page and Beck were in the Yardbirds together briefly. Both left the Yardbirds to go form their own groups. And not surprisingly, both groups very similar to each other. And this one came out first. So kind of there's some stuff you hear on this album that Page was kind of like, all right, yeah, I like those ideas. We're going to do that in my new band, right? Of course, Shapes of Things on here is killer. Let Me Love You, awesome. You got Morning Dew, You Shook Me. Old Man River, great Green Sleeves, right? Terrific. Rock My Plimsoll, Beck's Bolero, another amazing song. Then, of course, Blues Deluxe, the big rambling bluesy piece on there. Great vocals from Rod on that and great guitar work. And I Ain't Superstitious, killer. A lot of really, for the time, different guitar sounds on this album, right? You had Hendrix doing his thing, of course, Clapton and Beck. Beck doing all sorts of, just within this kind of hard rock, blues rock context, doing some really innovative stuff here at this time. So yeah, the Truth album's got to be here. The follow-up's really good too. That was another one I considered. Then I'm going to go ahead a few years to the beginnings of his kind of jazz rock fusion kind of period. Got to go with Blow by Blow. This is my favorite Jeff Beck album of all time. I think it's just an amazing album. And while he no doubt was getting lots of influences from the Mahavishnu Orchestra and Tommy Bolin's work with Billy Cobham and Alphonse Mouzon, right? This is kind of Beck's interpretation of this whole kind of jazz rock scene. And, meanwhile, there's plenty of rock on here. There's some pop on here and just amazing songs, amazing playing, amazing arrangements. Of course, you got the fantastic production from George Martin on this album too, right? You know what I mean? She's a Woman, Constipated Duck. You got Scatterbrained on here. 'Cause We've Ended as Lovers, dedicated to Roy Buchanan. Just amazing stuff. Freeway Jam, Thelonious. It's just top to bottom, start to finish, just amazing guitar playing on here and great arrangements, and just everybody's just top notch. Just such a nice, tight, beautiful album. just absolutely love it. And let's go to number 3, the follow-up. It's got to be Wired. So Wired here kind of takes that concept and takes it to the next level. In comes Jan Hammer and a bunch of other players. And, again, Beck not really writing any material on these albums. He's basically just bringing in guys and saying, all right, come up with the songs and the arrangements. And, I'll lend my great guitar skills here. We'll work these things out. This is definitely a little bit more groovy, more funky, definitely more in that kind of fusion realm. But just some great, Lead Boots is great on here. Come Dancing, Goodbye Pork Pie had a great rendition of that classic. Blue Wind, great. Sophie, I mean, top to bottom, again, really, really great. But again, a little, these are very different albums from each other. They're cut from the same cloth, but they don't sound the same. And there's some ferocious playing from Beck on these albums. Interesting how on the front cover he's playing a Strat, and then on the back they got pictures of him playing a Les Paul, right? So whatever. So those are my 3 albums. As far as like my favorite solo, so this was nearly impossible picking out a favorite Jeff Beck solo. But I ultimately decided to go with an album, with a song from an album that wouldn't have come up in my top 3 albums from him, because the album, I like the album, but as a whole, the album is just really different, and it's very kind of 80s. But this one song on this album has always just absolutely thrilled me, and it's just got some of the most ferocious guitar playing from Jeff Beck ever on any song, and his solo is just magnificent. It's a perfect example of when Jeff Beck is just unleashes himself, what he can actually do. And I'm going to go to the Flash album, and it gets us all in the end. It's a hard rock song, but it's got Jimmy Hall on vocals, of course, from Wet Willie. And it's got, this whole album has this kind of very 80s sheen from a production standpoint. It's a lot of funk on this album, a lot of dance beats and pop sensibility on this record, but it gets us all in the end. It's bringing in these kind of hard rock textures in with all those other things I just talked about, especially Jeff's guitar. When he comes into the solo, first of all, it's he's just playing. He's got, his guitar is just packed with overdrive, but he's utilizing the whammy bar in a fashion on this song that we would kind of hear from him later on, but maybe in this kind of not like frenzied setting. And it's just he's doing all these fast runs and he's picking really fast, and he's just wrangling that whammy bar till it ready to fall off. And it's just a absolutely ferocious solo. I really love it. And the solo is long, and it takes you through the end of the song. He's just screaming. Jimmy Hall's right behind him singing. Awesome stuff. Just a great solo. I've always loved it since I remember buying this on cassette back when it first came out, and thinking how most of the album was kind of sucky, but that song, and every time that song came out, I would play it over and over and over again. And the beginning, this ferocious riffing, he uses a slide, and it's just really, really good stuff. But over the years, I have grown to really enjoy this album. It's not one of his best albums by any means, but there's some good stuff on here. But it's very kind of funky, dancey in spots and whatnot, and then a lot of keys, and the production values, really, really shiny and shimmery, but still really cool. Jeff Beck gets us all in the end. From Flash is my favorite solo, and of course, these 3 monster albums are my picks for favorite albums from Mr. Beck. And let us know what you think. Guitar Shop is, I was racking my brain. I'm like, God, how do I squeeze Guitar Shop in here too in some fashion? Because that's amazing as well. There and Back is also great. I love the Jeff Beck group, the 2 Jeff Beck group albums with Cozy Powell. And like I said, I like the second Jeff Beck album as well. So a lot of great stuff. He did the album with Roger Waters, which was terrific, right? So a lot of great Beck playing out there. The stuff with the Yardbirds is pretty cool too. So, but it can only fit so much, right? So that's my pick for today, Jeff Beck. And these 3 albums gets us all in the end as the solo. Let us know what you think of Jeff down in the comments below, as well as your pick for today. Let's bring him back to the stage here. There we go. The great Jeff Beck. And this is on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alerted of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Also down below, get the links to our Ko-Fi page for channel donations, our merch page, and our Cameo page thank you in advance for all your support there. We'll see you soon here at More Stuff. I'm Pete Pardo. Tune in a few hours. We've got the UK Connection. Very fun episode. Make sure you stay all the way till the end of it. We're going to be talking about our favorite soundtrack albums. And, of course, tomorrow I will be ranking the albums of the Vanilla Fudge. Also, make sure you head on over to Lair of the Alchemist. I'll be doing a show with John Gaffney talking about our favorite guitar and bass duos, right? Those, some band or whatever, the guitar player and the bass player had a really tight connection. We're going to talk about why we love them together so much. So that's all coming up on Lair of the Alchemist. And then next week, of course, is In the Prog Seat. So don't miss that. We're going to be talking about those 3 early 80s albums from King Crimson. Discipline, Beat, and 3 of a Perfect Pair. Now that we have the Beat band out there on tour playing lots of that stuff, we're going to talk about kind of what we love so much about those 3 classic albums from King Crimson in the early 80s. So that's all coming up on Tuesday. Till then, I'm Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you soon. Bye-bye.